At 6:12 on a rainy Tuesday evening, I drove through the gates of the estate my father had secretly left me, and found my husband's entire family drinking champagne on the front lawn. A gold sign had been attached to the stone gate. Bennett Family Retreat. Beneath it, workers were unloading white chairs from a truck. Music came from the open windows of the three-story manor. Someone had wrapped lights around the old cedar trees. And my mother-in-law was standing on the front steps wearing my grandmother's emerald green shawl. The shawl my father had kept inside a cedar chest for 30 years. I had never been allowed to touch it without washing my hands first. Patricia Bennett lifted her champagne glass when she saw my car. "You finally made it." She said it as though I were late to her party. I stepped out into the rain. "Why are you here?" My husband, Owen, appeared behind her. He wore a cream sweater and the relaxed smile he used whenever he had already made a decision for both of us. "Claire, before you get upset. This estate belongs to my father." Patricia corrected me. Belonged. My father, Elias Mercer, had been dead for 9 days. I had received the call while standing inside a damaged courthouse I was helping restore. The nurse said he died peacefully. That was the word people used when they wanted death to sound organized. Peacefully. As though the person simply placed their life down and walked away. My father and I had a complicated relationship. He loved me. I knew that. But he believed love was safest when guarded. He shared stories, not plans. Memories, not numbers. Whenever I asked about money or property, he said, "Anything worth keeping should not be displayed in the front window." I thought he meant privacy. I did not know he meant a 68-acre estate outside Ashford. I learned about Briar Glen that morning in my father's attorney's office. Naomi Reed placed a photograph on the table. A gray stone manor. An orchard. 3 cottages. A glass conservatory. My father had owned it for 27 years. The property had belonged to my grandmother's family. He had restored it quietly, using rental income from farmland and conservation grants. My husband knew none of that. At least that was what I believed when I left Naomi's office. Now Owen was standing on the manor steps as though he had been born there. I walked toward him. "How did you find this place?" He looked at Patricia. That small movement told me everything. His mother answered. "Your father contacted Owen several months ago." "No, he didn't. You were busy. He needed someone practical." My father barely tolerated Owen. Owen's smile disappeared. "Your father and I resolved our differences." "Then show me the messages." "This is not the time." A little girl ran past us carrying a silver candlestick. Owen's niece. Behind her, 2 of Patricia's brothers were pushing an antique dining table toward the garden. I recognized the table from the photograph Naomi had shown me. It had been built in 1814. "Put that down," I said. No one listened. Patricia stepped closer. "We're preparing for Saturday." "What happens Saturday?" "The launch." Owen spoke gently. "We've repositioned the estate." "Repositioned it as what?" "A private wedding and executive retreat." I stared at him. "You turned my father's house into a business?" "Our family business needed a new flagship property." "Our family." "The Bennetts." The rain grew heavier. Water ran from my hair onto the black collar of my coat. I looked through the open front doors. Suitcases lined the hallway. Family photographs had been placed on my father's tables. Someone had removed the oil painting that normally hung above the staircase and replaced it with a framed photograph of Patricia and her 4 sons. They had not arrived that afternoon. They had moved in. "How long have you been here?" Owen exhaled. 3 weeks. My father had still been alive 3 weeks earlier. "You moved into his home while he was dying?" "We were protecting the property." "From whom?" Patricia looked directly at me. "From you making an emotional decision after his death." I laughed once. The sound did not feel like mine. Owen reached for my arm. I stepped away. "Where is my father's study?" "Locked," Patricia said. "Give me the key." "We can't." "You can't, or you won't?" Owen lowered his voice. "Claire, the estate is not as simple as you think." I removed the folder Naomi had given me. Inside was a certified copy of the trust declaration. Mercer Heritage Trust. Primary lifetime steward, Claire Elise Mercer Bennett. I held it toward him. "This looks simple." Patricia barely glanced at it. "We have our own documents." She gestured toward the house. A man in a gray suit emerged from the doorway carrying a leather portfolio. I recognized him. Leonard Price, the attorney who handled Owen's family hospitality company. He opened the portfolio and removed an agreement. My electronic signature appeared at the bottom. The document claimed that I had appointed Owen as co-manager of Briar Glen 6 months earlier. I had never seen it. This is forged. Leonard adjusted his glasses. It was signed through your verified company account. My company account was compromised last winter. Owen looked surprised. Only slightly. You never told me that. I did. You said I was overreacting. Patricia folded her arms. Whether you remember signing it is irrelevant. Owen has invested considerable money. How much? Nearly $800,000, he said. From where? The Bennett Hospitality operating account. That company was almost bankrupt. Owen had spent the previous year hiding how badly 3 failed restaurant projects had damaged it. He told me they were restructuring. Apparently, the restructuring involved stealing my father's home. I looked at Leonard. You're aware my father was alive when they entered this estate? He granted temporary access. Show me. Leonard closed the portfolio. The original authorization is inside the study. The study you won't let me enter. No one answered. Then an elderly woman appeared at the edge of the lawn. She wore a waxed brown coat and held a black umbrella. Her white hair was braided down her back. Patricia's face hardened when she saw her. June, you were told to remain in the gatehouse. The woman ignored her. She walked directly toward me. You're Claire. Yes. Her eyes moved over my face as though searching for someone she remembered. I'm June Ellis. I looked after this estate with your father for 19 years. Owen stepped between us. June is no longer employed here. June continued looking at me. Your father left something for you. Patricia snapped. She removed property after being dismissed. June held out a small brass compass. The metal was scratched. The leather strap had nearly worn through. My father carried that compass on every hiking trip we took when I was a child. He always said it pointed north even when people didn't. I took it from June. The back was engraved with 4 words. Let them show you. My breath caught. Owen noticed. What does it say? I closed my hand. Nothing. June's eyes held mine. Your father said if the house was full when you arrived, you should not ask them to leave immediately. Patricia laughed. How convenient. June continued. He said to let them show Claire what they came for. A car door slammed near the gate. Naomi Reed walked toward us carrying her black briefcase. Owen's face changed. You called a lawyer? I met her before coming here. Naomi stopped beside me. She looked at the sign over the gate, the furniture on the lawn and Patricia wearing my grandmother's shawl. Then she said, no one is to remove another object from this estate. Leonard stepped forward. You have no authority here. Naomi opened her briefcase and handed him a court notice. I represent the Mercer Heritage Trust. He read the first page. His confidence weakened. The trust's assets are under temporary preservation order pending inventory. Owen stared at me. You went to court? My father did. The order had been prepared 11 days before his death. It prohibited the sale, transfer or alteration of any estate asset after he died. Someone had already violated it. Several times. Naomi looked at me. We can request immediate removal of every unauthorized occupant. I thought of the words engraved on the compass. Let them show you. Not yet, I said. Owen's family relaxed too quickly. Patricia smiled. I knew you would be reasonable. I looked toward the manor. I'll stay in the gatehouse with June. Owen frowned. This is your home. Apparently it's currently yours. That isn't what I meant. I know. I turned toward June. Can you show me the gatehouse? She nodded. As we walked away, Patricia called after me. Saturday's launch will continue. Investors have traveled from 3 states. I stopped. How many people have paid you? Owen answered. Claire, don't involve yourself in operations until you understand them. That sentence decided everything. He no longer saw me as the owner of the estate. He saw me as an obstacle who had arrived before the final signature. The gatehouse stood half a mile behind the manor, beside an abandoned stable. Inside, the room smelled like cedar, dust and wood smoke. June placed a kettle on the stove. Naomi closed the curtains. Then she looked at me. Your father knew they would come. How? Because Owen asked him to transfer the estate last year. I stared at her. Owen knew about Briar Glen for a year? 14 months. And no one told me? Your father wanted proof of what Owen intended. June placed an old blue ledger on the table. Elias gave him a false appraisal. The real estate was worth nearly $26 million. The appraisal Owen received valued it at $9 million. Even that was enough to interest him. Naomi opened the ledger. Your father discovered Bennett Hospitality was carrying more than $6 million in hidden debt. I sat down slowly. Owen told me the debt was under $2 million. He wanted Briar Glen as collateral, Naomi continued. Elias refused. So Owen forged my signature. Possibly. But that is not the worst part. June poured tea into 3 mismatched cups. The Bennetts have been searching the manor every night. For what? Your father allowed a rumor to reach Owen. Naomi almost smiled. He told him the estate contained bearer bonds purchased by your grandfather. How much? For $1 million. Do they exist? No. The answer should have relieved me. It didn't. Then what are they searching for? A black iron cabinet beneath the west wing. June sat across from me. They think the bonds are inside. What is actually inside? Evidence. My father had spent 14 months recording every interaction with Owen. Every request. Every threat. Every false invoice. He gave Owen access to a small estate renovation budget and watched where the money went. Owen transferred funds into companies owned by Patricia and his brothers. Then he forged documents claiming the expenses had improved Briar Glen. The black cabinet held copies of everything. But the originals are not there, Naomi said. Where are they? With the State Financial Crimes Unit. My father had submitted them 2 weeks before he died. The cabinet beneath the manor was another decoy. Like the false appraisal. Like the non-existent bonds. My phone vibrated. A message from Owen. Can we please behave like husband and wife tonight? Mom has planned a family dinner. I stared at it. Naomi read my expression. Do you want us to seek the eviction order? I looked at the brass compass. Let them show you. No. I placed my phone on the table. I'm going to dinner. Owen had always admired my work until it belonged to him. Then preservation became stagnation. Patricia set down her glass. We also need to resolve the trust. Naomi had warned me the dinner would become a negotiation. Leonard placed a folder beside my plate. You want me to sign something during dinner? It is an acknowledgement, he said. The document appointed Owen permanent operating manager and converted parts of the trust into a limited company. The company's directors would be Owen, Patricia, and Marcus. My name appeared only as a non-voting beneficiary. I inherit the estate and lose the right to control it? You retain 40% of future profits, Patricia said. Future profits from property you do not own. Owen lowered his voice. Claire, the family has invested. Without asking me. We couldn't wait while your father's health declined. You moved in before he died. He gave us verbal permission. June had already shown me the security recording from that day. My father, thin from illness, stood at the manor door while Owen demanded access. His exact words were, "You may inspect the property with June present. You may not occupy it." Owen edited the recording before sharing it with Leonard. He removed the final sentence. I picked up the management agreement. What happens if I refuse? No one answered immediately. Then Patricia said, the Bennett company may be forced into bankruptcy. You used company money to move into my father's home. We invested in a shared future. It was not shared. Owen's face hardened. Your father never trusted me. He was right. The room went silent. Owen's youngest brother looked down at his plate. Patricia's smile disappeared. You should be very careful about insulting the people who have supported you. Supported me how? We welcomed you into our family. You charged our wedding expenses to Owen's company and called them promotional costs. Patricia stared at me. That information came from my father's evidence. She now knew I had seen at least part of it. Leonard closed the folder. This conversation is becoming unproductive. No, I said. It is finally becoming accurate. I stood. Owen followed me into the hallway. Claire, wait. I kept walking until we reached my father's study. A new electronic lock had been installed. Owen opened the door. He looked behind us. Not here. It is my father's study. There are private company documents inside. In my house. This is our house now. The words came out before he could stop them. I looked at him. What did you say? He reached for me. I meant our home. Yours and mine. No. You said our house. He exhaled. Claire, I have spent 3 weeks fixing everything your father neglected. You installed a bar in the library. It creates value. You cut down 2 protected apple trees to widen the parking area. They were diseased. You sold my grandmother's writing desk. His expression froze. June had noticed the empty space in the upstairs bedroom. The desk appeared that morning on an antique dealer's website. Sold for $48,000. Owen had transferred the payment into Bennett Hospitality. We needed liquidity, he said. You sold something that did not belong to you. I intended to replace it. It survived 2 world wars. You cannot order another one. He looked tired. For a moment I saw the man I had married 11 years earlier. Then he spoke. You don't understand what it means to have an entire family depending on you. My father depended on me to protect this place. He left it hidden from you. Maybe because he knew what you would do if I knew. Owen looked toward the study. I did this for us. Then why is there a divorce agreement on your laptop? His face went white. Naomi had obtained it that afternoon through the legal discovery connected to the forged management document. The draft was dated 3 weeks after Saturday's launch. Under its terms, Owen would keep control of the company holding Briar Glen. I would receive a city apartment and a monthly allowance for 5 years. He had planned to take the estate, secure the investor money, and then leave me. You searched my laptop? Your attorney submitted the file as supporting evidence. It was a draft. For what? A worst-case scenario. You wrote it before my father died. He said nothing. The silence felt cleaner than another lie. I stepped toward him. Did you ever intend to tell me you knew about the estate? Yes. When? After everything was stable. After my signature was no longer necessary? His eyes moved away. That was the answer. I returned to the gatehouse. Over the next 48 hours we documented everything. June provided security recordings. Naomi collected the forged agreements. The antique dealer agreed to hold my grandmother's desk after learning it might be stolen property. Environmental officers inspected the damaged wetland. The bank froze the membership deposits before Owen could transfer them. But we did not stop the launch. Saturday morning, Briar Glen filled with investors, wedding planners, local officials, and wealthy families. Patricia wore my grandmother's emerald shawl again. A stage had been built in front of the manor. Above it, gold letters read, "The Bennett Legacy at Briar Glen." My father's name appeared nowhere. Owen found me near the orchard. I wore a charcoal trouser suit and carried the brass compass in my pocket. You came. You invited me. I'm glad. He seemed relieved. He believed I had decided to surrender quietly. The investor needs your signature after the presentation, he said. What am I signing? Final trust acknowledgement. And then, we announce you as creative director. A title without authority. A decorative wife attached to stolen property. Patricia stepped onto the stage. The crowd applauded. She spoke about family. Legacy. Vision. She described Briar Glen as a forgotten estate rescued by the Bennetts. Then she invited Owen onto the stage. He announced the private club, the weddings, the luxury cottages, the artificial lake. Finally he smiled toward me. And none of this would be possible without my wife, Claire, who inherited this beautiful property and trusted our family to create its future. Everyone turned toward me. A staff member held out the final agreement and a pen. I walked toward the stage. Patricia's smile widened. Owen extended his hand. I took the microphone instead. This estate did have a forgotten owner, I said. The audience became quiet. But it wasn't my husband's family. Owen whispered. Claire. I looked toward the sound technician. Play the file. My father's voice filled the lawn. Weak. Measured. Unmistakable. My name is Elias Mercer. Briar Glen belongs to the Mercer Heritage Trust. My daughter Claire is its sole lifetime steward. Patricia's face changed. The recording continued. Owen Bennett requested ownership of this estate after learning its value. I refused. Any document claiming otherwise is fraudulent. People began looking toward Owen. He reached for the sound controls. 2 officers stepped between him and the equipment. My father's voice continued. I allowed Owen limited access to determine whether he intended to preserve the property or exploit it. During that period he transferred estate funds, altered recordings, removed protected assets and prepared documents using my daughter's signature. The large screen behind the stage lit up. Security footage appeared. Owen entering the study. Patricia removing ledgers. Marcus loading antiques into a van. Contractors cutting down the orchard trees. Nathan was not in this story. Careful not confuse. Marcus. Then the black iron cabinet appeared. Footage showed Owen's brothers breaking it open the previous night. Inside they found empty folders and one handwritten note. You were looking for money. I was collecting proof. A shocked laugh moved through the audience. Patricia tore the emerald shawl from her shoulders. This is a setup. Naomi walked onto the stage. No. It is an inventory. She announced that the property was under court protection. Every membership and wedding deposit would be refunded from frozen accounts. The antique assets were being recovered. The trust had never authorized Bennett Hospitality to operate at Briar Glen. Then Helen Grant from the State Charity and Financial Crimes Division stepped forward. He was not there as an investor. He was there with warrants. Owen stared at me. You brought police to a family event? You sold property that wasn't yours. We can fix this. You planned to divorce me after the transfer. Patricia turned toward him. What is she talking about? He had not told his mother about the divorce agreement. That was the final secret. Owen did not plan to share Briar Glen with his family forever. Once the investor funds were released, he intended to create a separate holding company. Patricia and his brothers would receive temporary positions. Then he would remove them too. Naomi displayed the draft ownership structure. Owen held 78%. Patricia received 5%. Marcus received 3%. The rest belonged to outside investors. Patricia's fury shifted from me to her son. You said this would belong to the family. Owen lowered his voice. It was a preliminary structure. The phrase sounded familiar. Every betrayal became temporary when the person responsible explained it. Patricia slapped him. The microphone captured the sound. Investors began leaving. Wedding planners demanded answers. The antique dealer approached an officer. The bank representative ended the letter of intent. Within 12 minutes the launch collapsed. Not because I shouted. Not because I destroyed the estate. Because my father had left a record and I allowed the people inside it to speak for themselves. Owen followed me into the manor. Claire, please. I stopped beneath the staircase. The Bennett family photograph still hung where my father's painting had been. Do you know what hurts most? I asked. He looked at me. You lived here for 3 weeks. I know. My father was dying 15 miles away. Owen closed his eyes. I thought there would be more time. You always thought there would be more time after you got what you wanted. His voice broke. I loved you. No. You loved what marriage allowed you to access. That isn't true. You hid this estate from me while moving your family into it. I was protecting the opportunity. From its owner. He stepped closer. What happens to us? I looked at the house around him. There is no us inside this estate. The officers entered the hallway. Owen was escorted outside. Patricia followed, still shouting that the property belonged to the Bennett family. June stood near the library doors. When the last car left, she removed the gold sign from the gate. The Bennett family retreat ended after 6 days of public existence. It had never legally existed at all. The divorce took 9 months. The fraud investigation took longer. Owen claimed I knew his family had moved into Briar Glen. The security footage proved otherwise. Leonard claimed he relied on documents provided by his clients. Digital records showed his office created 2 of them. Patricia claimed the antiques were moved for restoration. Messages to dealers described them as family assets available for immediate sale. Bennett Hospitality entered bankruptcy. Owen's family blamed me. They said I destroyed a company employing 84 people. The bankruptcy records showed the company had been insolvent before anyone entered Briar Glen. Its employees did not lose their jobs because I protected my estate. They lost them because Owen hid debt while spending money he did not have. Several restaurants were purchased by another operator. Most workers kept their positions. The world did not end when the Bennetts lost control. It simply continued without their name on the doors. Owen accepted a financial settlement requiring restitution to the Mercer Heritage Trust. The antique desk was returned. So were the silver candlesticks, paintings, and my grandmother's jewelry box. Some objects were damaged. 2 orchard trees could not be restored. The wetland took 18 months to repair. Not everything stolen returns in its original condition. That is true of property. It is also true of trust. Patricia sent me one letter. It contained no apology. She wrote, "Your father poisoned you against the only family you had left." I placed the letter in the fireplace. My father had not poisoned me against anyone. He had simply stopped protecting them from being seen clearly. Owen wrote more often. In his 4th letter, he admitted discovering the estate through correspondence he found inside my father's accounting files. He began meeting Elias privately. At first he claimed he wanted to repair their relationship. Then he asked for investment. When my father refused, Owen decided the old man was being irrational. He convinced himself that taking control was the responsible thing to do. That was how Owen justified every betrayal. He transformed desire into responsibility. The 5th letter contained one honest sentence. "I believed you would eventually forgive me because you always had before." I kept that letter. Not for sentimental reasons. Because it explained the marriage more clearly than 11 years of photographs. Forgiveness had become something Owen budgeted into his plans. A consequence he believed would expire. I stopped providing it. Briar Glen remained closed for nearly a year. June and I inventoried every room. We repaired the attic. Removed the illegal bar from the library. Replanted the orchard. The artificial lake excavation became a natural pond after environmental experts reshaped the ground. One morning, June found my father's original painting behind stacked mattresses in the basement. It showed Briar Glen at sunrise. A single light glowed in the gatehouse window. On the back my father had written, "A large house should never exist only to impress people who already have somewhere to sleep." That sentence revealed the real purpose of the estate. My father's trust documents included plans that no one had implemented because he was waiting for me. Briar Glen was meant to become a preservation and recovery residence. Half the property would train young craftspeople in historic restoration. The cottages would provide temporary housing for women rebuilding after bereavement, divorce, or financial abuse. The orchard income and event rentals would fund the program. Not luxury weddings every weekend. Not executive memberships. Workshops. Residencies. Safe rooms. New beginnings. My father had not hidden the estate because he wanted to surprise me with wealth. He hid it because he wanted me to choose its purpose without pressure. I named the program the North House Project after the brass compass. June became estate director. Naomi served on the independent board. No family member held automatic authority. Every major financial transaction required 3 approvals. The trust could not be pledged as collateral. And no spouse of any future steward could gain management rights through marriage. I learned from my father's caution. I also learned from his mistake. Secrets can protect something temporarily, but silence can leave the person you love unprepared. So we wrote everything clearly. Who owned the land? Who controlled the accounts? What could never be sold? Where to report concerns? No hidden appendices. No verbal promises. No one would need to guess what the truth was. The first resident arrived in October. Her name was Rosa. She was 45 and had left a marriage after her husband emptied their joint accounts. She arrived with 2 suitcases and a box containing ceramic birds. She stood inside the manor hallway and looked at the restored painting above the staircase. "Do people really live here?" she asked. "For a while. It looks like a hotel." It almost became one. She smiled uncertainly. "What do you need from me?" "Nothing tonight." The answer surprised her. People who have lived around conditional love often expect every open door to contain an invoice. I showed her the West Cottage. Fresh sheets. A small kitchen. A desk overlooking the orchard. The antique writing desk my husband's family had sold now stood beneath the window. I told Rosa its history. She touched the wood carefully. It came back. Yes. Does everything? No. I looked toward the repaired orchard. But enough can. 1 year after the failed launch, Briar Glen held its first public event. Not a luxury wedding. A graduation ceremony for 12 restoration apprentices. They had spent 9 months learning stonework, timber repair, plaster conservation, and stained glass restoration. 3 were offered permanent jobs. 2 started their own businesses. The others continued training. Chairs stood on the same lawn where Patricia once drank champagne. But no gold Bennett sign hung above the gate. My father's name appeared on one simple plaque. Elias Mercer Workshop. Preserve what holds truth. After the ceremony, I found Owen waiting outside the gate. He was thinner. His hair had turned gray around the temples. The terms of his release allowed him to contact me only through attorneys, but that restriction had recently ended. I won't come inside, he said. That's wise. He looked toward the manor. You finished it. No. It was already finished. We repaired what your family damaged. He nodded. I heard you use it for housing. Yes. My mother says your father planned all of this to humiliate us. My father was dying. He had better things to do. Owen stared at the brass compass hanging from my neck. I did love you, Claire. I no longer felt angry when he said it. Only tired. You loved being close to things you wanted. That isn't the same. No. He looked through the gates. Do you ever miss me? I considered lying. I miss who I believed you were. His expression changed. Could we ever be friends? No. The answer came gently. He seemed surprised by that. Cruelty is not required for a boundary to remain closed. He looked down. What did your father think of me at the end? I remembered the recordings. My father did not sound angry when he spoke about Owen. He sounded disappointed. He thought you kept confusing opportunity with permission. Owen closed his eyes. That sounds like him. Yes. He walked away. I watched until his car disappeared. Then I closed the gate. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Because the program's residents were inside and privacy was part of safety. That evening, June and I sat in the conservatory drinking tea. Sunlight faded behind the orchard. The manor windows glowed one by one. Young apprentices cleaned tools in the workshop. A child staying with her mother ran across the lawn carrying one of the silver candlesticks like a royal staff. June laughed. Your grandmother would have fainted. My father would have laughed. He would have pretended not to. His dimple would have appeared. I placed the brass compass on the table. The needle settled north. When I inherited my father's secret estate, I believed the mystery was why he had hidden a $26 million property from me. The answer was not inside a deed. It was inside the people already living there. My husband's family showed me exactly what they believed inheritance meant. Control. Status. Profit. A house large enough to prove they mattered. My father believed inheritance meant responsibility. Protecting land you would never truly own. Preserving work completed by people whose names had been forgotten. Opening rooms to those who needed safety more than luxury. Owen's family moved into Briar Glen before I knew it was mine. They changed the signs. Sold the furniture. Cut the trees. And planned a future in which I became a guest on my own property. But they made one mistake. They believed possession was the same as ownership. It isn't. Ownership leaves a record. So does betrayal. And my father, a man who trusted documents more than promises, left enough of both to lead me home. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. What would you have done if you arrived at a secret estate and found your husband's entire family already living there? Would you have removed them immediately, or stayed calm long enough to discover what they were searching for? Subscribe to Her Final Move for more fictional stories about betrayal, hidden inheritance, intelligent revenge, and women who reclaim their lives.